Hello and welcome to Mad Hatter Magnet Fishing and Mudlarking, and today we've got a short walks with Shay and Callum episode for you, and we are going to be touring Nothe Fort, which you can see right there.
The first question you might have is why that was built. It's enormous and it's built of a huge amount of stone and earth, and it wasn't built in isolation. It was built as part of many other defences to Portland Harbour. I think there's about 4. There's one at the Verne. Can't really see Portland right now because it's shrouded in mist as it usually is, but it's that sort of lump in the distance. There's the breakwater fort, which is, as its name suggests, on the breakwater, on the entrance to Portland Harbour. But this was the main defensive fort, which could cover the approaches to Weymouth and Portland harbours, and it was built in 1860, or they started building it in 1860, as a response to increased tensions with the French, which we'll go into in a bit. But the government of the day, Palmerston, he commissioned a report which said that the sea defences were lacking, and so they introduced a very extensive programme of building fortifications along the British coast, of which Nothe Fort was part.
Today we're on Dorset's Jurassic coast. Bloody beautiful and calm waters as it is today. As you can see, glassy ocean.
Me.
And glassy glasses. Very well known part of the coast for fossil hunters. Anyone who likes a bit of dinosaur history. It took 12 years to build the Nothe Fort. It was built overlooking the harbour, as you can see behind us here. The first part of the construction was actually construction of a sea wall due to issues with sloping parts of the coast. However, they were unable to complete this at the time, and the construction was handed over to the 26th Company of the Royal Engineers.
The interesting thing about it taking 12 years to build was that by the time it was finished, the original threat from the French had kind of diminished. There was about 2 or 3 years of tension with the French. They'd increased their naval capacity, they'd got new iron-bottomed boats, they'd increased the capacity at Cherbourg, and there was an assassination attempt on Napoleon III by some English radicals and Italian radicals after the Franco-Italian War, and so there was a bit of hysteria at the time. That's why they built this thing, but because it took so long, by the time it was done, it was dubbed one of Palmerston's follies. A huge network of fortifications along the south coast and some of the other coastlines, which in the end weren't really that useful, or so they thought. It may be unfair to say that, because the whole point of them being defensive fortifications is that they are a deterrent.
So upon the entranceway to Nothe Fort here, there used to be a drawbridge along this section, which we're stood across, as a wooden and iron drawbridge which would allow people to gain access to the fort and everything within. It would also allow them to be able to restock with food items, munitions and other such things that would be needed for daily life within the fort.
That was replaced in 1934 by this entranceway. They needed heavier vehicles to be able to access the fort, and the drawbridge was no longer fit for purpose. So in order to keep it defensive, they've built this tunnel, which I suppose they could block up, and there's a roadway which goes straight into the fort.
Which I'll take you across and show you now. There we go, Nothe Fort. So price of admission for you to be able to get into the Nothe Fort currently stands at £9.50 for an adult, concessions at £8, child's 5 to 15 is £4, under 5s are free, A family, which consists of 2 adults and 2 children, is £23, and a small family, 1 adult and 2 children, £13.50.
As soon as you enter the fort, you enter a semicircle courtyard which doubles up as a parade ground. It's now very well maintained and looks as it would in the 19th century, and that's due to the restoration works and the careful maintenance of a caring body of volunteers.
Here you can see a detailed representation of Nothe Fort back when it was in use still. You can also see the gun emplacements within the gun battery here, which is now actually part of a car park outside. I will talk more about that a little bit later on. And so this is World War II, I believe. And then over this side here, you can see another detailed representation of the fort, but in its earlier days, when they would have had cannons and the men would have been on parade there. You can see one little chap actually putting the flag up, and over the other side there, you can see the cannons. Here we have a fine example of the World War II kitchen that would have been here during the times whilst it was used to house certain individuals. You can see some of the period decorations they have in there currently. The fireplace to keep themselves warm, what they would have had for food and such. Certain items of which I mudlark for today. You'll see in some of my other videos. And now we enter the Victorian gun deck display. So you can see here the old fire burners, the stove, where they'd have played cards, checkers, all the rest of it. And where they've actually eaten a little bit as well, near the kitchen. There's an old iron there, I found a few of those, magnet fishing. You've got the enamel plates. And there is bed setups. Now obviously they weren't actually that short, these are just half size, so you can get an idea for what it would have been like. Doesn't look particularly comfortable, does it really, when you look at it? It doesn't look like somewhere I particularly want to be sleeping myself. I'll take you over here quickly and I'll be able to show you their daily routine. The artillery daily routine, the commands for the daily routine were announced by bugle or trumpet. 5:30, reveille.
I've no idea.
6:30, morning parade, recruits drill, trumpeteers practiced. 7:30 rations issued and breakfast. 8 a.m. breakfast. 8:30 a.m. hospital hour, men reporting sick. 9:30 guard mounting in parade. 11:30 commanding officers hour for gunners and report a punishment. 12:30 p.m. dinner. 2 p.m. parade. 4:30 p.m. tea. 9:30 p.m. first pot. 10 p.m. tattoo. The tattoo is the call to return to the fort for roll call before the last post, not getting some finer ink. 10:30 last post.
So all the cannons which were installed at Nothe Fort were muzzle-loaded, spiral-cut cannons. So they would spin the shell as it left the barrel, which gave them extra range and extra accuracy. What is reveille? Define reveille. I'm glad you had to pronounce that, not me.
In 1889, some of the gun-specific storerooms were opened up for general use and living quarters. By the 1890s, the country had seen many technological advances, and 7 of the cannons were ready to be replaced. In their place were put 12.5-inch, 38-ton cannons. The new guns were able to launch projectiles over 3.5 miles. Portland Harbour continued to become busily visited by many a naval fleet, and in turn this created more opportunity for the Nothe Fort.
Due to the pace of technological progress, after the fort was opened in 1872, it wasn't very long before they had to replace the guns. They replaced the RML guns with some naval guns, breech-loaded naval guns. I think only 18 years later, in the early 1890s.
Now, as we come up here, we come towards the caponnière. The word caponnière originates from the French meaning chicken coop. Now, as you can see, it's rather closed in, but this has been done on purpose to protect the troops that will be behind, firing through these slits to defend the fort. Well, you can see over the top, and you can see what they would have been firing at. So that's where we are, just there. So using this signal projector, they would have created Morse code. There's an alphabet here for you, and that's how they would have been able to speak to each other across long distances, or speak to incoming ships to check if they were friendly or not. The fort was constructed with 3 major levels, the first of which being the lower level, also known as the magazine. This level was created for the storage of gunpowder and shells. The next level was the mid-level. It was designed to house 12 heavy muzzle-loaded cannons. It was also there to provide accommodation for the troops manning those guns. The third level constructed was the top level, also known as the ramparts. The ramparts were used as a blockade as well as an outer wall. They were used as a place to fire small arms and muskets. The first soldiers to be stationed at Nothe Fort were the No. 2 Battery Royal Artillery, and they were specially trained in handling large cannons. See here a model representation of the actual construction of Nothe Fort, where they'd have brought what I assume to be Portland stone over from the island of Portland, hoisted it up, and using wooden struts, they would have been able to make and build the outer walls and then in turn the inner walls as well, creating the very famous semicircle shape of Nothe Fort. The magazines are protected by 6 metre thick walls. Now we come towards the barbican. The barbican is a defensive position constructed to defend the entrance of a fort or castle. The passageway on your right, this one here, leads to a small defensive area that is directly above the entrance to the fort. Narrow tapering musket slots through the walls of the barbican on the side overlooks the entrance to the fort, providing maximum protection to those inside, whilst allowing a wide arc of fire for their muskets. Firing the muskets did produce considerable volumes of smoke and noise. To overcome this problem, ventilation holes were provided above the musket shots. As you can see, it is quite a cramped little space. You wouldn't really want to spend too much time in here, but you can also see how it would have been quite advantageous and quite a protected little area to be able to shoot your shots off without getting hit by anything from outside. Here we're within the observation post where you'd have been able to stand, aim at the boats coming in across. As you can see, you get a good view of all of them as they come across the waterline. You have some of the uniform of the Royal Engineers that would have been here, and some of the gear that they would have used as well. And here we have Callum doing semaphore. Currently he's F.
No, I'm trying to say
Fire.
H.
No. Help.
H.
H.
I can't go higher.
Here's the semaphore alphabet for you. Well, some useful words for you at least. It's the signal office where they would have sent out different signals using lamps and Morse code. You can see there the chap looks rather bored of his job.
Well, he's on heroin.
Got the switchboard there. He's on the he's got the switchboard there for the controls over there. You got all sorts of stuff, as you can see. Proper old school, proper cool. During the 1900s, the fort's layout was slightly revamped. This included adding some hoist lifts, which were used to bring munitions and shells from the lower magazine up to the gun deck. The 6-inch guns on the ramparts were decommissioned in 1956. The 3 7-inch anti-aircraft guns were then installed during World War II. By 1938, the Dorset Royal Artillery Regiment were stationed at Nothe Fort. In September 1939, Nothe Fort had its first anti-aircraft gun installed, the Vickers pom-pom gun, installed in the northwest corner of the ramparts. Also, where the current car park is, there would have been a battery of 4 other guns which were also anti-aircraft. July of 1940, the first and also the last shot was fired by the cannons at Nothe Fort. A mysterious ship approached, and when challenged in according to protocol, the ship did not respond in kind. The men stationed at Nothe Fort proceeded to fire a single shot across the bow of this ship. The vessel was then escorted into Weymouth harbour and found to contain loads of down on their luck refugees from Alderney. The refugees were then later given accommodation and welcomed to the town by the civilians.
John Miles, you told the device on the front could get little Renault filter on the front of it, which was brilliant.
That's my favourite.
What a car that is.
Once World War II had ended, there were a few ideas about how to repurpose the fort. There was the idea to install radar to help the accuracy of the guns. It continued to be a coastal defence fort until 1956, when it was closed and declared obsolete.
In the 1970s, idea to make the fort a hovercraft destination or indeed a hotel were put forward. This changed again as soon as the 1980s rolled around, and the fort was reopened then as a tourist destination, attracting massive groups of tourists with extreme popularity among the visitors every year. They would pay a price of about 20 pence, and for that they would be given a short chat and a tour escorted around the fort. Health and safety nowadays would be in uproar as they were toured around on planks and boards laid across holes, and many of the railings were broken. Here you can see an example of the stores that they had, where they would have come and spent their money on luxuries. See if we can spot a few. You've got some sweets, meats that they'd have had, different teas, OXO. Is there any products there that you used to have still look the same, or any products you recognise that you have now that look different? Let me know. It was a tad misty earlier, so now there's a bit better weather. We thought we'd show you. There, out on the end, is the breakwater fort. You can see. Unfortunately, there's no public access, so that's about as close as I'm going to be able to get for you guys with that one. And then up there, on the top of Portland, you can just about see the Verne with the entranceway there.
Crows in the tree as well. See that over there? Or jackal.
And here we're on Portland, and this is the Verne that we were showing you, that you could see across 1881 it was built. Now we come towards the nuclear bunker, which takes us down these stairs. So we're going to go down, have a little look, have a little explore, see what we find. Got to go quite far down, haven't we? Where's Callum? There he is. Yeah, I know, yeah, it is nice and warm down here. Cold War displays.
So when was this used as a
And
nuclear?
we're presented, I can't remember, with this hallway.
So it was for civil administration, it wasn't for any military
Ah,
purpose.
here we are, nuclear shelter. Nuclear shelter. During the 1980s, approximately 1/3 of the magazine level of the Nothe Fort was used as a district command centre. The centre would have been responsible for controlling civilian activities in the event of there being an imminent threat of nuclear attack. Bunk sleeping accommodation for up to 30 civilian personnel was installed, together with vital services such as ventilation and communication systems. All entrances leading to the shelter were provided with heavy doors to give protection against the nuclear blast. Here we come to the nuclear bunker. That would have been one of your sirens, which would have given you warning of an incoming nuclear attack. Very, very loud items. Very loud items. You can see the control panels here. You can see the way that it was set out in this diorama. Living quarters, eating quarters, working quarters. And there's someone suited and booted, ready for a nuclear attack. Old computers and things. Ooh! We're in the magazine. Oh, now this is a room for me.
How many of these things you pulled out of it?
I know, yeah. Ceremonial Japanese dirk, naval dirk from World War II. Very pretty knife. Beautiful inlay on the sheath there as well. Next to that we come to a British sabre from 1880, which would have been used by light cavalry troopers. It's a lovely sword there. Coming up to the hilt. And then following that, this rather intricate looking one here would be a Victorian British sabre used by the Surrey Light Horse Brigade, Cavalry Brigade, I guess, I assume.
Don't mean to interrupt, but have a look at this over here.
I'll be there in one moment. We've also got the ceremonial German dirk from 1933 to 1945 just here. There's also I can't say that word I don't think on YouTube. There's also a German ceremonial dirk, World War II, as you can see there. We've also got another ceremonial German dirk from World War II there as well. Following on from those swords, up here we have a musket flint shot from 1797. As you can see there, it's British made India patterned smoothbore musket, would shoot up to 200 yards. This one was bought from the East India Company on the outbreak of the war with France in 1793 and issued in 1797. Known as Brown Bess to the British Army. Underneath it here we have a short Enfield, a rifle that I've always wanted to find. It's one of my dream rifles, percussion rifle musket, 1858 with a range of 400 yards. This one is unfortunately in poor condition after having been salvaged from the sea, and this was issued to rifle regiments and sergeants of line regiments only. Got a little diorama underneath here as well. Quite cool to look at. Here we have multiple guns that have multiple bayonets on the end. We've got the Snyder from Britain, 1866, 600 yards, modified rifle musket. See a slug there, and there's the bayonet on the end of it there. Socket bayonet, that one would be, followed by a Chasseport rifle with a French Chasseport bayonet, one of which I actually have at home. I found one of these in my hometown. Some of you may remember. If you're interested in seeing that, it is on one of my earlier videos, and that's on a Chasseport French rifle from 1866. Underneath it we follow on to the Nothe Fort, sorry for the bad pronunciation, of the German 1877 rifle. 2,000 metres of range this one had. Another gorgeous, gorgeous item. British bayonet, Martini Henry, carbines Lee Metford rifles, dated 1888, with the rifle dated to 1894. Again, one of these Martini Henry rifles I actually found myself on my birthday of all days. What an amazing find that was for me. Absolutely loved finding that one. Gorgeous find. And that had a range of 1,400 yards. We do also have a few other Russian and German rifles here. Here's a Russian one. The Nigant, I believe they called that one. Another beautiful rifle. Another one under here, the Arisaka Japanese rifle, 1905. Next to those we have the Magazine Lee Enfield MK1 British rifle, 2,800 yards range on that one. There's another rifle that I'd love to find magnet fishing or mudlarking. Above it we have the Mauser German 1898. Looking at again 2,000 metre range.
1898.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you said 1998.
Did I? Oh, 1898. If I apologise, I correct myself if I got that wrong. You've also got the short Magazine Lee Enfield here. Another beautiful rifle. All of these are gorgeous. I mean, wouldn't you just love to have these in your collection? I would. I know that much. The Lee Enfield MKP14. The Lee Enfield No. 4 MK1. And then we've also got the Lee Enfield No. 4 MK1. But it shows you here how it would have been loaded. With separate bayonets, different kinds you'd have had. So that one has kind of got like a cross shape to it, which would have been extremely hard to heal from. That one's more of just a round bullet shape, and then this one's got your traditional knife shape. Moving on from those, we also have the Mauser up here again, rifle, with a German bayonet there, made specifically to fit the Mauser. And again, under here, another one with another little diorama there, look, of a rifleman looking across all the way over to see the German camp. Just going to take you through a few of the bayonet types that we've got here. These are the rounder bayonets that I was just talking about. British, World War II, to fit the SMLE No. 4 rifle, commonly called pig stickers. There you go. Moving along from those, we've got the 1907 early version bayonet pattern, SMLE No. 1 bayonet with a Quillian Snag enemy bayonet. This one here remained in service until World War II. You've got your Martini Henry bayonet there. You've got your Butcher bayonet. I'm sure you can see why it was called that. And then you've got some French bayonets here. That, for instance, is that cross shape I was on about, extremely hard to heal from wounds like those. And this slightly unusual one here is an Argentinian one, used in the Falkland Wars. Over here we come to close combat weapons. You've got here a trench knife with the knuckle dusters and the knife blade on there. Extremely brutal, extremely nasty weapon. Can do some serious damage with that. You've also got the kukuri from the Gurkhas. Amazing people, they deserve a lot of respect. They've done a lot for us and fought alongside us. You've got the miniature ones here. I'm not sure if they go by the same name. They're probably a slightly different name. Look at the detailing on that blade there. Again, more kukuris from the Gurkhas here. We come down to some grenades. We've got here, this one's a rifle grenade, all the way down and along there, that one goes. So these rifle grenades were fired from Lee Enfield rifles and declared obsolete on the 23rd of January 1919. You've got your pineapple grenades, I believe they call those. You've got your Mills grenade. I've pulled one of those up. I've pulled a couple of those up myself. Mills grenades. British those were. High explosive grenade. Over here we've got police and other British clubs and weapons. You've got your fighting knife, a US fighting knife, and you've also got some British commando knives here used during World War II around 1942. Now we're going to be taking you into the infamous Nothe Fort ghost passageways. Look how scared Callum is. I'm not going to lie, as soon as we've got into this bit it smells different. What have we got here? Ah! Here you can see one of the ammunition hoists. I'll be talking about that a little bit later with Callum actually. They did make them electric in the end, but they used to be done by hand. Anyway, moving along. Some of the stairwell and now into the dark. Whoa, that got dark. What the hell was that? Was that you? Callum's trying to scat me out. I don't know what. Is that a wall? No, that's not even a wall, dude. You can put your hand in there.
It's a little alcove.
Is it? To scare your mates. Very dimly lit in here. But there are tales of people hearing gunners whistling and all sorts. People touching you in ways you don't wish to be touched. And I do mean ghosts. Not your boyfriend trying to be funny. Can you hear the ghosts now?
They're so loud, I couldn't hear them. Very good.
There's a scatty little alcove there. Of course, I couldn't help but leave without going to the concessionary stand, or the gift shop as some of you may call it, and I ended up grabbing myself some strawberry and raspberry cream white chocolate, because that looks rather tasty, and a few of these strawberry bonbons for the grand total of £6.25. I'm afraid me and Callum completely forgot to film an outro together, so it's just me this time. So I will thank you all for joining me and Callum in today's adventure, and we'll be sure to catch you on the next one.